The Chinese have tried to isolate Taiwan, keeping them most recently from the World Health Organization by not even letting their participation be on the agenda of the World Health Agency, whatever that makes these determinations. They may try to keep Taiwan from visiting or participating in other places, but they will not isolate Taiwan by preventing us to travel there.
For more on the story, we are joined here in the studio by France 24's Chief International Affairs Editor, Rob Parsons. Rob, can you fill us in on the developments over the last 24 hours? Just how tense is the situation?
It continues to be very tense, pretty much more of the same thing, but perhaps upped a little bit. Yesterday there were 22 cases of Chinese fighter jets crossing the median between the Chinese mainland and Taiwan. Already today we've had reports of over 100 incursions across that line by Chinese aircraft and also by frigates and destroyers of the Chinese Navy. Reports too of rockets being fired into Japan's exclusive economic zone, and according to Japanese intelligence and the Japanese Defense Ministry, at least 4 Chinese missiles have flown across the island of Taiwan. In other words, an incursion into the territorial space of Taiwan. There was considerable concern in the run-up to these exercises that if something like that were to happen, that the Taiwanese might choose to exert their right to shoot them rockets down. They haven't done so. They say themselves that they've been using their missile systems to track Chinese missiles, but clearly have decided just to keep things as calm as possible and to allow them to fly over the island and crash into the sea off the eastern coast of China. But clearly indicative of the sort of tensions that are building up around Taiwan at the moment.
Well, beyond Taiwan, how have the U.S. and other countries in the region been reacting?
Well, we've just been seeing today Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, who was in Cambodia for a session of foreign ministers of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, saying pretty much that this is an entirely unnecessary, extreme and disproportionate reaction by the Chinese to the visit of Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan. One can question whether or not it was wise for Nancy Pelosi to go in the first place. But the point he's making is that the Chinese had a choice about how they would respond to that decision by Nancy Pelosi to go to Taiwan. And what they've chosen to do is, he's saying, completely disproportionate. He's calling it a manufactured crisis. In which the Chinese had ample opportunity at any stage to back off, but chose to use the visit as a pretext to take these sort of measures to put pressure on the Taiwanese authorities. There is a sort of suggestion here that the Chinese may have miscalculated, that they had hoped, expected that by putting pressure before Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan, that the Americans might be prepared to back off from that visit. It backfired, and they thereby put themselves into a corner which they couldn't get out of, and decided to go ahead with this sort of disproportionate step. Be that as it may, this is where we are today. Elsewhere, I mentioned just now the ASEAN meeting. ASEAN on Thursday called for restraint and expressed its concern. The Japanese today, Nancy Pelosi in Japan, Fumio Kishida, Japanese Prime Minister, expressing his concern as well.
All right. Thanks for that analysis. That's Chief International Affairs Editor Rob Parsons. Thanks again.